I just want to make sure you know that your work is not wasted. Time Magazine's coming out with its new edition this week, and it just posted on its website its lead story. Senate Republicans finally got something done. They should thank Steve Bannon. I know everybody's not happy about the budget they passed today, but if you want tax reform, we had to have that budget passed. And they finally got something done. It's not about me. It's about the people at the convention today. It's about the people in Alabama. It's about the people in Wisconsin. It's about the people in Tennessee. The Republican establishment is finally getting the joke. They're going to have to step it up. The theme of my speech and our talk tonight is victory begets victory. At 2:30 a.m. on the 9th of November, 2016, the Associated Press announced that Donald J. Trump was the President-elect of the United States. "85 days before that, on I think it was August 15th, 14th, or 15th, I took over as CEO with Kellyanne Conway as our campaign manager. I think the numbers are roughly something like this. We were 16 points down, I think double digits down or thereabouts in every battleground state. We were a 70 on the generic ballot of Republicans. You got to be at 90. You know, 9 out of every 10 Republicans have to vote for you for President of the United States to win. The campaign didn't have a lot of money, not a lot of organization. First call I made was to Reince Priebus at the RNC and got his best people. Katie Walsh, Reince, Sean Spicer, all of them came up. I got Dave Bossie, like I said, Kellyanne Conway, Bill Stepien. We put together a team in 72 hours. Victory begets victory. We don't have a problem with ideas. We have a problem of understanding how to win. It is about winning. Nothing else matters. If you want to take your state back, if you want to take your country back, you're going to have to roll your sleeves up. There's no one person, Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, Ted Cruz, Laura Ingraham, Steve Bannon, they are not going to get this done. What's going to get it done is each and every one of you and the people of this convention. How do we pull off the win? We pulled off the win by having the RNC and the Republican establishment put their shoulder to the wheel with the Trump campaign state by state. And we had a strategy. We knew we had to win Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, and Iowa just to get to the table. I don't think a Republican in living memory has done that. And once we got there, we had 2 paths to victory. The path that I was most focused on with a couple of guys in the campaign, because we had the data analytics and micro-targeting to show us what to do, was break the blue wall up north. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. In Minnesota, we lost by 1 point. Now, how do we do that? We did it through teamwork. We did it through a coalition. What we had to bring together were populist and nationalist and evangelical Christians and conservatives and establishment Republicans. We had to put our differences aside in order to win. Now, since that time, some of those differences have come up. The United States Senate in particular has done, I think, a terrible job of supporting President Trump. And let me say something about President Trump. I've had the great honor of being the CEO of the campaign and then being his chief strategist and senior counselor in the White House. And now, I'm proud to say, his wingman outside. You know, Donald Trump was worth what? I don't know, $4, $5, $6, $7 billion. Had a lovely wife, a great family, loving children. He had friends. When you see Donald Trump around his friends, you know what friendship really is, real camaraderie. He owned some of the best properties in the world. He was buying golf courses and turning those golf courses, some of them championship courses, get them into the Open Championship Rota. doing things that a guy that's about 70 years old would do at the culmination of one's life, right? Kind of that last sprint you're going to have. There was no reason for him to run for president of the United States except one. He felt he had a duty to his country. Hillary Clinton's campaign spent $2.2 billion. I think Trump's campaign was $750 million, roughly, somewhere like that. And all of that money was not to debate issues. We didn't have a big debate on immigration, or we didn't have a big debate on national security. There wasn't a big debate on tax policy. What they used it for was the politics of personal destruction. They tried to destroy Donald Trump. And you know why? Because Donald Trump is an existential threat to the system. Now what I mean, that's a highfalutin, Harvard word. What does that mean? It means it goes right to the heart of the beast. Donald Trump knows all the games, he knows all the scams, he knows everything that goes down in Washington, D.C. They've tried to shake businessmen like Donald Trump down for years. The permanent political class that runs this country is one of the great dangers we face. No. Everything you see on cable TV, everything you see that these guys back here, the opposition party, and good evening, opposition party. Nobody should say CNN sucks. Come on, this is not a Trump rally. Everything you see on cable TV, on MSNBC or CNN or Fox, that's in the foreground, right? That's to divert your attention of what's really going on, okay? There's a business model that the permanent political class have. 7 of the 9 richest counties in the United States of America surround Washington, D.C. For the first time since the invention of the silicon chip, Washington, D.C., those 7 counties have a higher per cap income than Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, which, by the way, has led the greatest revolution in technology in man's history and had more great inventions. Now, what does Washington, D.C. have? What they've got is basically a private equity fund of every year, $4 trillion that they divvy out. The consulting class, the lobbyists, the K Street crowd, the donor class, and the politicians they own. They've taken this country in a very, very dangerous direction. Donald Trump, the whole campaign, and this is why it had to be a coalition. This is why it had to be the Republican establishment. It had to be limited government conservatives. It had to be libertarians. It had to be populists. It had to be economic nationalists. It had to be evangelical Christians. If you have the wisdom, the strength, the tenacity to hold that coalition together, we will govern for 50 to 75 years. And it's not going to be easy. Not everybody agrees on everything, right? Grover Norquist, I don't know where Grover here is tonight. Grover, where are you, brother? Grover Norquist, one of the greatest guys on taxes around. Grover and I don't agree on everything on policy, right? The economic nationalists don't agree with the libertarians. Libertarians don't agree with the limited government conservatives. Oftentimes, we have a lot of different opinions on foreign policy and where we should go. But we agree on enough stuff that we can bind together. If we do not unite, and unite not in campaigning, but in governing, and understand we're going to have to put certain differences aside to get things done, we're going to be run out of office. And you know what? We deserve to be run out of office. There's absolutely no excuses anymore. I hate people that whine. And a lot of I hear all the time is nothing but whining. And that whining is, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the presidency, we have the executive branch of the government. We're about to get the Supreme Court, and we're about to get the judicial system back. There's absolutely nothing we can't do if we do one thing, if we move with urgency. Now, the resistance that comes up against that is not the people outside that are protesting tonight. When those people finally understand what economic nationalism is about, And it's not about your race, your color, your gender, your religion, your ethnicity, your sexual preference. It's about one thing. Are you a citizen of the United States of America? Because if you're a citizen, there's certain responsibility and obligations that come with that. But as a citizen also, you should have preference for jobs and economic opportunities. Economic nationalism is not what's going to drive us apart, it's what's going to bind us together. We've had a very dangerous thing come as conservatives over the last 30 or 40 years. And this is another thing I know everybody in this room is not going to agree with. This kind of Austrian school of economics, this kind of Ayn Rand, where everything was about the economy. What was most important 6 weeks before the election, you got to see what the unemployment rate is. It's GDP is everything. We are not an economy. We're a country. We have a social fabric and a civic responsibility. We're free, by the way, I'm a free market capitalist, as most of you are, right? That's the underpinnings of our society. But we're a civic society. It's more than an economy. An economic nationalism, looking out for our fellow men to make sure that the manufacturing jobs that we allowed to go to Asia come back to the United States of America. If you want to talk about this civic society, I don't know if y'all have read J.D. Vance's fantastic book, Hillbilly Elegies. J.D. is a guy who went to Yale, a Marine Corps officer, fantastic writer, and a conservative. But the book shows kind of the socioeconomic underpinnings of the Trump revolt, particularly in the upper Midwest. And J.D. was a guy that showed me a study that had been done by a couple of professors at MIT and Harvard. It shows you a direct correlation between the factories that got shipped to Asia, the jobs that left, and the individuals behind that became addicted in this opioid crisis. Our country is in a crisis. We have to move with urgency. The working class people in this country have responded to our message. They've responded to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the only person that could have beaten Hillary Clinton. He's a very imperfect individual, as we're all imperfect. But he was an instrument. And you can say he's an instrument of God's will or not. But I will tell you, it took the hand of divine providence to win on November 9th of 2016. And that's one of the things that upset me so much about what's happened in the last 6 or 7 months. The lack of urgency, the lack of work. You know, I'm so proud of this thing right here. Mitch McConnell announced the other day they're going to start working 5 and 6 days a week. People in this country are working 2 and 3 jobs. During the last hurricane, they had a study. In fact, I think it was on CNN, and this was not fake news. But somebody did a study, and I think I quoted correctly, that half of the households in this country, in our beloved country, don't have $400 in cash to meet an emergency. $400 in cash. What would the people that fought in the American Revolution think about that? What would the people that died at Guadalcanal think about that? That we have a country that's created $5 trillion of wealth on the combined stock exchanges and equity value, right? But that people that have a high school diploma have not had a raise since 1970. And that half of the families in this country can't find $400 in cash. If we do not take care of this problem, and I'm not about redistribution of wealth, but what I am about, and what we have to be about, is that people do not have to compete unfairly against foreign labor, whether that foreign labor is in China or whether that is illegal alien labor that comes into the United States of America. Victory begets victory. Look what's happened since Alabama. Let's talk about Alabama for a second. Now, Alabama I was on the opposite side of the football with the president. There were a couple of reasons for that. I think the president got some bad information, but I will tell you what. You see the power in Alabama of the evangelical Christian movement and the populist nationalists that Mo Brooks represented. When they come together, you cannot beat them. And you can't beat them with money. The theory of the case in Alabama was very simple. It's the reason I didn't want any big donors to put any money in. We had to prove something. That the donor class and Mitch McConnell's money doesn't mean anything. We had to turn their biggest asset into their biggest liability. They spent $32 million in a state like Alabama against $2 million from Judge Roy Moore. And you know what they did? It wasn't there to debate the great issues of our time. It wasn't there to debate immigration. It wasn't there to debate America's role in the world. Just like Hillary Clinton and the Democrats came after Donald Trump, it was the politics of personal destruction. It was against Judge Moore, and it was against his wife. And you know what they said his big crime was? That he put the 10 Commandments in a courthouse. The 10 Commandments, which is the underpinnings of the Judeo-Christian West and reinforces man's imperfection. Judge Moore won 55-45. Fox News put up some fake news yesterday, a poll that showed Judge Moore tied, just to say that, hey, this revolt that Bannon and these crazies are doing against the Republican establishment is not going to turn out too well. Well, guess what? Today's poll, by the way, that was for registered voters, not likely voters, okay? The poll that came out today from the local TV station that got the primary dead spot on, Judge Moore is up by 11 points. The good thing about Alabama is look what's happened since then. What, we had DACA, we had the 70-point program on DACA, including 20 deal killers. And on top of that, a White House official, I won't say it's Stephen Miller, but a White House official came out and said, there's no path to citizenship, right? We had pulling out of UNESCO, right? We had the decertification of the RAND deal, IGRC, terrorist organization. We had stopped the illegal payments on Obamacare, the CSR payments. We had Secretary Mnuchin come out and reinforce this is going to be a middle-class tax cut, and the entrepreneurs are going to get almost the same tax cut that the big corporation is going to get, just to reinforce it. Hell, every day since Alabama's Christmas Day. You know why? Winning matters. You're not here to waste your time. You're not here to have moral victories. I don't want moral victories. I want victories. Because when you have victories, you redo the judiciary for a generation. When you have victories, you start to get our tax structure correct. When you get victories, you redo these crappy trade deals and start protecting American workers, American companies. It's time in California we start to have some victories. The resistance is not the people you see outside. That's not the resistance, right? That's actually, quite frankly, going to help Republicans. Because right now, on those 23 very difficult districts that Hillary Clinton won, yet Republicans have the House seats, the generic ballot, you may be 10 points down. But the resistance, our buddies outside, right, who are good folks, they're just misled, misinformed. They're going to drag it so far to the left that we're going to hold those districts, right? And Nancy Pelosi is not going to get her opportunity to impeach the President of the United States. No, the resistance is this permanent political class, this combination of lobbyists and consultants and corporatists and globalist elites. In the heart of the resistance, the beating heart of it, is Silicon Valley. The folks up there think they get a special deal, right? Put these companies in Ireland or in Luxembourg or in the Canary Islands, wherever they put them, don't have to pay taxes, right? They want all the benefits of a free society. They want all the benefits of this rules-based international order, right? This thing that we've created since World War II. This inextricably linked combination of commercial relationships, trade deals, capital markets, that we, the citizens of the United States, underwrite. And our sons and daughters, right, whether they went to West Point, the Naval Academy, or just went down to boot camp in Paris Island or in San Diego, they underwrite it. We underwrite the whole thing. That's what Donald Trump, that's why he's a threat to an existential threat to the system. He understands that. He looks at the EU and says, we're upside down the trade deal, and we fully finance NATO. Oh, excuse me. Because Donald Trump forces them to pay 2%. Let's talk about that for a second. Donald Trump put in a supplemental to the 17 budget of $30 billion to upgrade our military, get it, because the readiness was so low, because of these endless wars we've been fighting for 15, 16, 17 years. $30 billion to the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Navy, for equipment and to help their people out. $30 billion in supplemental on a budget that was already $650 billion. The entire defense budget of Germany is $30 billion, or $32 billion. Europe doesn't even make an attempt to defend itself. They're a protectorate of the United States of America. The Gulf countries are protectorates of the United States of America. The countries around the South China Sea and the Straits of Malacca, protectorates of the United States of America. Korea, Japan, protectorates of the United States of America. That's what Donald Trump sees. That's why he talks about America first. It's not that we're going to be isolationists. It's not that we're going to walk away from the world, but we have to start thinking like adults about what the world is. Within the last couple of days, it's very interesting, and within 24 hours of each other, there were 3 speeches. President Xi in China, our beloved President George Bush. That's a piece of work. And John McCain. John McCain's grandfather is one of the greatest naval officers of the 20th century. We would not have won the war in the Pacific in World War II. Admiral Nimitz would not have won that without Admiral McCain. His father, a great naval officer. We would not have been as successful in Vietnam as we were with the fleet on the gun line in our Navy Air if it was not for John McCain's father. John McCain, his service in the United States Navy is a pride to every naval officer. How he handled himself. And how John McCain's handled himself with this horrible disease he has, and the class that his wife and his daughter have shown, the whole family, and his 2 sons who serve in the Marine Corps. John McCain deserves our respect. However, as a politician, John McCain's just another senator from Arizona. John McCain the other day, and they're all loud, you know, the New York Times and Morning Joe is the greatest speech in human history, right? It was Pericles at Athens, right? The speech was nothing but happy talk. And we live in a dangerous world. It's time we started treating our fellow countrymen like adults and have an adult conversation with them. President Bush, to me, embarrassed himself. Speechwriter wrote a highfalutin speech. It's clear he didn't understand anything he was talking about. He equates the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, globalization. He has no earthly idea whether he's coming or going. Just like it was when he was President of the United States. I want to apologize up front to any of the Bush folks outside in this audience, okay? Because there has not been a more destructive presidency than George Bush's. The rise of China started with the Clintons and Bush. When they had this great theory that you let them into the World Trade Organization and giving most favored nations that they're going to become a liberal democracy as they get bigger, okay? And they're going to become more free market capitalist. This is not a small mistake. This is a strategic mistake of incalculable problems. Xi's speech the other night was not that we're going to be a superpower with the United States. It's we're going to be a hegemon. That our system, the Confucian mercantilist system, the system they've run of us for the last 30 or 40 years, is going to be dominant throughout the world. That the One Belt, One Road, this massive geopolitical project they have, that's now moving into Central Asia, with the same naval bases around it that the British and the Americans had. It's a geopolitical expansion of, quite frankly, breathtaking audacity. The Chinese have told you, not only are they going to run the tables on us, they've run the tables on us. Brexit and 2016 are inextricably linked. I'm very proud of the fact that the morning after we won, Nigel Farage came up and said to BBC, if it had not been for Breitbart London, there would not have been a Brexit. Raheem Kassam and Alex Marlowe and the guys that did that are here, but provided a platform for UKIP to actually talk about what the issues were. But although Brexit in 2016, and Hillary Clinton just admitted this the other day on BBC, that was a forerunner, a canary in the mine shaft, as we knew it was going to be. The undertone of that, the ground tone of that, was China. It's China's exporting of deflation and excess capacity that helped gutted the Midlands factory towns in the upper Midwest. And it's bringing those jobs back. It's bringing those jobs back where the opioid crisis is today. That's going to be our great challenge. Silicon Valley, one of the things I'm proudest of in the trade that we came up with was not the 232 about steel and the tariffs, which had everybody's hair on fire, where China is totally gaming us with the rest of the world to destroy our steel industry. But it's the forced technology transfer of our technology. $3.5 trillion in the last 10 years. I'm not talking about theft. Theft is horrific, but that's through human agency. It can't be changed. I'm talking about tribute. We are a tributary state to China. We're Jamestown to their Great Britain. We have a $400 billion trade deficit. We'd have a $500 or $600 billion, I think it is, if we didn't ship over, coal and oil and gas and timber and copper and soybeans and hogs and beef and Boeing jets and Apple products. Oh, excuse me. We don't send Boeing jets and Apple products anymore. We don't send any high-value manufacturing because they have all the manufacturing. The decline in America's ability to have folks to make a living is directly related to us being gamed by China. The ascendant economy of Silicon Valley, Wall Street, Hollywood, and Washington, D.C. made out great. It's the descendant economy, the shrinking economy, the people working 2 and 3 jobs, the people tied up in this opioid crisis. They're the ones that got screwed. And those are the ones that are looking for our leadership to turn this country around. The candidates, the digital age has given us something very special. It's helped us. And you see it in Alabama. In the digital age, it's made the analog even more important. We only need 3 things to win. 3 things. You need authenticity of a candidate. No more blow dries. No more Frank Luntz, words that work and words that don't work. Give me Donald Trump. Give me Nigel Farage. Give me Judge Roy Moore. Give me Mo Brooks. Give me any of these people. Give me somebody that's authentic. You don't have to be perfect. This is not a commoditized product like Procter & Gamble. We need authenticity. As we know on the internet today, that's one of the things people look for. Number 2, we need bold ideas. And not just quoting the thing of don't pastel colors and bold ideas. I mean bold, actionable ideas. Ideas like Donald Trump ran on. Like build the wall, right? Protect our southern border. Reduce legal immigration. Restrict HB1 visas, because in restricting HB1 visas, the Hispanic and black kids can get into engineering schools, and then they can go to Silicon Valley and work, because they're citizens of the United States of America. This populist, nationalist, conservative coalition, if we hold together, and why is populism so important? Populism is going to force decision-making down to the people. It's going to have more policies that are directly related to the people's benefit, that the elites themselves are not going to garner all the advantages of it. Why nationalism? I can tell you why. The Chinese are very nationalistic. It worked for them. We have to stop worrying about these global institutions, right, that America is just one part of, and that we spend all our tax dollars and our muscle of our children to defend and propagate. No, the rules-based international order has worked for everybody but the United States of America. It's going to have to totally be rethought. In doing that and taking on these global elites, we're going to have to also worry about the lords of technology in Silicon Valley. And one thing we're going to have to focus on, and this is going to be your primary responsibility, and hopefully when certain individuals are governor. But you've got a very dangerous thing going on in the state. California is to Donald Trump as South Carolina was to Andrew Jackson. Back in the 1830s, the folks in South Carolina didn't like the fact that Jackson, a populist, and Congress had put on tariffs, federal tariffs, on product. And they decided that in South Carolina they weren't going to have those tariffs, and that they were just an independent, they could do what they want. They could choose what federal laws they wanted to have and not have. And General Jackson said, if they can pick and choose what laws they want, eventually they're going to split off and try to form a Southern Confederacy. He said this in 1832. So Jackson passed another law, empowered the U.S. Army. He was going to send the Army into South Carolina. And he told somebody, and if I have to, I'm going to hang John C. Calhoun from a lamppost. But we're going to enforce federal law. You've nullified the sanctuary cities law in this state. In fact, you're a sanctuary state. And trust me, if you do not roll this back, and I'm talking about people in this room, 10 or 15 years from now, the folks in Silicon Valley and the progressive left in this state are going to try to secede from the Union. Now, my hometown is Richmond, Virginia. My hometown was burned to the ground in April 1865. And in hindsight, it was burned to the ground for a pretty good reason. We thought the secession issue was settled 150 years ago. And it's going to be a living problem here in California. But here's the good news. It's always darkest before the dawn. It looks like now it's impossible to do anything in California, right? Demographics against you, the media's against you, the culture's against you. It couldn't be farther from the truth. You've got everything you need to win. You've got authentic people, you've got big ideas, and you have a grassroots, you have the muscle. The third part you need is commitment. You know who showed us how to do this? Two guys, David Axelrod and Barack Obama. Remember Barack, by the way, Rudy Giuliani, I've got so much respect for Rudy Giuliani. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. President wouldn't be president without Rudy Giuliani. But remember in 2008, during the Republican convention, Rudy Giuliani came on the stage and was talking about Barack Obama, and he said, "What is a community organizer?" Yeah, well, now we know. Somebody can kick your ass. You may not like Obama's policies, but a heck of a politician. Axelrod ran him in 2008 as a populist with limited experience, used the lack of experience as a benefit. And what he did, he put together a grassroots army. That's exactly what we're trying to do in 2017 and 2018 on this revolt against the Republican establishment. If you see the candidates that are coming up, they're all authentic. Whether Nicholson in Wisconsin, Morrissey in West Virginia, Rosendahl in Montana, Dr. Kelly Ward in Arizona, Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee. And they've got big ideas. You know what the big ideas are? Hey, maybe I'm going to support Donald Trump's agenda. And we're putting together a grassroots army that's going to go door to door, that shows that we don't need to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, so that the Karl Roves of the world don't make a fortune in buying TV time on attack ads. I apologize. I wasn't going to mention Karl Rove's name today, even though in Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal he wrote a very, I don't say nasty, but a very, unfriendly editorial yesterday. I don't like punching down, so I'm not going to say anything about Karl Rove. The future of the state is in your hands, and I mean that. You've got Andrew Sullivan at New York Magazine tonight. I recommend everybody go online and read it. It's one of the most liberal magazines out there. Incredibly well written, though, very insightful. I read it all the time. It's got great insights, great writers. Very left-wing, very progressive. Andrew Sullivan's a former conservative that writes for him. He worked through the whole immigration issue and said that the left has overplayed their hand, and they've given the Republicans and the conservatives the one weapon they need to destroy them. You have that in your hands. Everything you need to win, you have. You have great candidates. You've got big, bold ideas, actionable ideas. And you can put together a grassroots army. Hasn't happened in California to date, but you can do it. And you're going to have to do it. This is the great fourth turning in American history. We've had the Revolution, the Civil War, Great Depression and World War II, and now we've got what we're in today. In history, when they look back in a couple of hundred years, they'll say, did it start with 9/11, or did it start with the financial crisis, or did it start with the election of Donald Trump? We don't know that yet. We don't know really what triggered this turning, okay? But I'll tell you, the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, this country's going to come through this, and it's going to be one thing or the other. It's either going to be the country that was bequeathed to us by the previous, 12, 13 generations. There's going to be something totally different. Now, what it is going to depend 100% upon you. You can't look to Trump or Mark Meadows or Ted Cruz or Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity or Steve Bannon. Look at yourselves. Because if you don't put your shoulder to the wheel, if you don't hold yourself accountable, it's not going to happen. I would love to come up here and say, hey, it's all going to be sunny skies, it's all going to be great. It's not. We got a tough slog ahead of us. Everybody thought on the morning of the 9th when you woke up, it was all going to be great. Donald Trump is president of the United States. We control the Senate and the House. Look what's happened in the last 8 months. Folks in Alabama thought the other day, same thing. When Judge Moore wins, all going to be sunlit uplands. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The permanent political class that controls this country, and then the progressive Democrats on the other side of that, are not just going to sit there and give you your country back. You're going to have to take it back. And you're going to have to take it back by fighting for it. So tonight, when you say your prayers, and you pray for your country, and you pray for President Trump and his family, you pray for his troops, offer one other little prayer, and that's for yourselves. That 100 years from now, when they look back, they will look at you and you and you and you and you folks back there, and that when your country needed you, your state needed you, your community needed you, you stood up and answered the call. Lao Tzu is a Chinese philosopher about 2,500 years ago. He said that leader's best when his work is done, his objective achieved, the people turn and say, Look what we have accomplished ourselves. Good night.